This is Laurie Yoon. This is the post blog for Alba C2 classes lesson 3. This week the project was to create a business plan on an existing product, and I chose 3 different products that the students could pick from. So that would be colored ketchup, SciWorld, and Segway. The project was just divided into 3 segments that are already outlined in the CSLP book, so that would be product, market research, and marketing. For a thing that worked well, the 3 existing products that I chose, they were quite popular with the students, especially Segway, and I introduced these products in the first personal project with media cards that had various pictures of these products in use. So it stirred up a lot of discussion among the students as to why a company might have made the product, why the product might have flopped, and then just brainstorming different ways to modify the products to make them increase the demand and make it more successful. So the biggest challenge that I ran into was timing, and there were 2 main reasons why I had this timing issue. So the first reason was asking the students to create their own surveys. Now, initially I thought it would be better to have the students to have the freedom to create their own questions for the survey, but what ended up happening was the survey questions were either really specific or too general or unrelated to the actual marketing plan, and the students spent a lot of time kind of arguing on what questions they wanted to ask, how to ask it, and things like this. So to remedy this, what I did was I created a survey template for each of the 3 products, and I left 3 sample questions on there for the students so that they would kind of get a better understanding of how to make survey questions, and then they would only have to come up with 2 more survey questions. And the 3 sample questions that I put on those sheets were multiple choice and a scale, so a ranking from 1 to 5, and a yes or no type of question. So that this way it allowed the students to see different types of questions that they could create and how to ask survey questions. So when I did that, it was a lot more efficient. The students were able to create the additional questions a lot quicker and get on with the survey much sooner. Then the students had to graph the findings from the surveys. This actually ended up really well. The most popular application used was Polaris Office. So on the presentation, there's an option to graph and chart information. So the visual was wonderful when putting it on the TV for their presentation. However, if you have students that have never used this application before, I highly recommend giving them a little tutorial. So that means that you as a facilitator must practice using Polaris and get very familiar with how to use these options on graphing and charting information, how to insert a title, how to change the columns, how to change the axes, things like this.
Okay, with all the survey totals, you will have to take all your totals and show me in a graph or a chart. This information must be used as part of your product modification.
So when I asked the students to graph all this information, there's 5 questions. That meant there would be 5 graphs in total. And since there's 3 to 4 members per group, what I did was I asked each member to create 1 or 2 graphs so that it would be created a lot quicker. So after each group member created 1 or 2 charts or graphs for the presentation, what they then did was screenshot their finished graph when it was on display mode so that it'd be the largest on their tab screen, and then they would Bluetooth or Wi-Fi direct it, that image to the tablet that was designated as the final presentation tab. So then all images would go to that one tab, and then that person would then add image and then pull open that screenshot and put it on its own separate presentation page. Then afterwards, one person was in charge of having to summarize all of the graphs. And in the summary, they had to describe the most and least of each category and then link it back to their product using the results that they found. So for example, if a group chose colored ketchup and their survey found that pink was the most favored color, but blue was the least favorite color, then they can infer for their colored ketchup that it would be a smart business idea to remove blue from their product line and insert a pink color. When completing the last part of the project, the marketing section, showing students a sample business model really helped me to get the students to better understand what the components were and what they needed to discuss in their own business model. So I used this template with symbols, and I sent the template to the students' tabs in a media card, but I also printed out a hard copy for the students to have and take notes on. So when we were going over each component during the collaborative project section, the students were able to take notes and use that as a reference when they were creating their own business model as well as their speech for the business model. So that helped a lot.
On this task sheet, there are 3 major components, okay? Now, there's 4 people per group. That means that 2 people can work on one of the tasks together, and I will tell you which one that should be. Anyway, first one, Andrew, what's the first task?
Project 1, part 1, project choice.
Yes, the person that gets the product choice, you're just going to describe the product. Why did you choose it? Why will it be successful? Who is your target market? So, Leah, what do you create for the...
Presentation.
Yes. Yes, presentation and speech. So you're going to add a picture for your presentation slide on your Polaris or your S Note. Next, step 2. Rachel, what is it? Survey, that's right. So that graph, you've done it. So what's there left to do? The speech. This person must write the speech to explain each page of those graphs. Okay? Last step, Rachel J, read it for me.
First 3, collaborate project, business model, marketing.
This is the one that 2 people should work on. This is the big one, the big step. You must make a business model like I showed you. And if you forgot, I'm going to show you another quick example. This is a business model just like the one I showed you last hour. Remember with those symbols, the rings, the car, the heart?
Yes.
Yes. If you want, you can take a picture and use this in your presentation. If you want to make your own, go ahead. Second thing, marketing plan. That's your commercial. That's your advertisement. So those 2 people.
Now, another challenge that came that attributed to running out of time was asking the students to create their marketing tactics. So they could do a commercial, an advertisement, a promotion, or an event. And I asked the students to then film it or create it and show that in their presentation. But really, I think it could have been done much more simply by just having the students pick a marketing tactic and then justify why they picked that tactic rather than actually acting it out, filming it, or creating it. So that was my experience for lesson 3. I hope everyone had a good time.